You guys are listening to When Bad Things Happen to Good People, the podcast about censorship, and the arts. My name is Todd Sullivan. Our first caller and co-host is Oren Barter.
Hello.
And we are summing up the last few weeks of dreadful experiences with the Turner Diaries. And yeah, here we are. We're finished this book. It's been a rough few weeks. Fun story for you, Oren. My mom messaged me yesterday to let me know that she had sent us $25 via Buy Me a Coffee so that we could have a couple of beer after surviving the Turner Diaries. She said, yeah.
Well, we definitely need a beer after this, that's for sure.
A beer and a shower. Was that?
I was going to say, speaking of which, what are you drinking today?
Nothing really. I just finished a fine cup of Earl Grey tea. I got a little thing of water beside me, but that's about it.
Who the hell is this Todd Sullivan?
Right, I know. Well, normally on our live broadcasts, I would do like a Bailey's coffee, and I think I'm just low on Bailey's. So,
gotcha. Yeah, I'm trying to be frugal, so I'm drinking a vodka root beer that I found in the freezer randomly, and nobody claimed it, so I'm drinking it. And then I also have 2 little sample bottles of what's called 99 bananas. So I'm assuming it's banana-flavored liqueur. It sounds disgusting, but I am going to drink it. So that is what I have today.
I've seen those at right at the checkout at the liquor store. They've got a bunch of those little things there, and I keep seeing the 99 bananas. I'm like, what the hell is that? So you'll have to let us know if it's worth experiencing.
Well, here, let me have a sip right now. There's one that.
Please do, yeah.
Looks like somebody cracked it in the household already, had a sip, and then said nope, and then put it back. So let's see. Oh. It's got a really good aftertaste.
Okay.
The initial swig is rough though.
Yeah, is it the banana that's rough, or is it the liquor that's rough?
I think it's both.
Okay.
Let me one more. Just one more.
What more? Swirl it around a little bit. Really get all those flavors.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that bananas and liquor doesn't really go together all that well. It kind of tastes like a really, really shitty sambuca.
Okay.
Yeah. It'll get me good and buzzed to get through this podcast. So
there you go. Before we get talking about the book, we do have some news and announcements and fun things like that to get through. The first thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was the Patreon, our Patreon, which is at patreon.com/blah blah blah media. It's been a kind of a barren wasteland for the last several months. Not a lot of content going up there. And I want to talk about how that's already in the midst of changing. I've revised my editing schedule, or my editing workflow, I guess, so that as I complete an episode, I'm actually pulling out bits, outtakes, and things that are going to be. Yes, it is literally blah 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 media, sort of the name of the umbrella organization that runs this podcast, as well as another podcast I do called Half Cut Conspiracies. That's the website as well. You can go to blahblahblahmedia.com. Because that's what we do here. It's just a bunch of blah, blah. But
he's not wrong.
No, yeah. But we're going to start seeing some regular content showing up on Patreon, at least outtakes at the very least from this podcast and from Half Cut Conspiracies. I've also got a plan for a Patreon-only podcast that I'm going to be looking at starting up very, 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 very soon. that will only be available behind the Patreon paywall. Not quite ready to announce details about that yet, but it's something you can watch out for in the future. Also, oh, damn it, I missed it.
What'd you
Oh,
miss?
there. I missed our caller because we have a special guest coming in here to help us talk about the next thing we have to talk about. We have Carlo Sia on the line. Hey, Carlo.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. How are
Okay,
you?
perfect. Good, good. How are you doing?
Pretty well. Pretty well. We survived this dreadful book, so can't complain, I guess.
I know. Yeah.
Did you read along with us, Carlo?
Oh God, no! After your warning from like the first episode, I was like, I'll just leave it to you guys.
Let us do the hard work.
Yeah. So thank you for reading the book because I don't think I ever want to now.
Good. Yeah. No, you shouldn't. So we're coming into, normally we announce the next few things that we're doing. Pardon me. I need some more of that water. Normally we use the live episode to talk about sort of the next few episodes that we're doing, and so the first thing we're going to do after this, so next weekend, we'll be covering the Dr. Seuss books, which have not technically been banned, but it's been in the news. People are talking about it. We can maybe get some extra clicks by being topical, and I thought it would be a nice kind of brain scrub following the Turner Diaries to read something like something entertaining. Like,
I don't know. I've never read these books. They could be just as bad.
They could. Okay, they could be technically, but I doubt they'll be this bad. Then we'll take a weekend off on the 28th, and then the weekend after that is Easter, and we are planning a mad, crazy Easter crossover between our two podcasts. Is that right, Carlo?
Oh yeah, shit's about to get real.
It's the first I've heard about it.
It's not the first.
No, just joking.
Really? I was like, what? Okay, well, let's fill in order then.
So to start with, here at Band Things, we're going to be doing 2 episodes on Easter weekend. We're releasing 2 episodes on Easter weekend, and Carlo, as the official, unofficial emissary of the Catholic Church for our podcast, will join us for both of those. Yeah.
So we're doing. Which one are we doing first? We're doing Life of Brian, right?
Yeah. So the first one we're doing, though, that'll be released on Good Friday, is The Last Temptation of Christ,
right.
Martin Scorsese film. And then the following Sunday.
Hi, Roadkill.
Hey, Roadkill. The following Sunday we'll be live and doing Monty Python's Life of Brian, both with Carlo along for the ride, and then also I think releasing on that Sunday probably. Carlo, you're the one in charge of half-cut releases, but I mean, I'm guessing it would be Sunday,
it always
right?
confuses me every time. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll line up with the Sunday just before the Easter long weekend, I think, or is it?
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's the Sunday before. Yeah,
So no, it should be the 4th, which I think is Easter Sunday.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay. All right. Well, there you go.
But we'll be looking at some Jesus-related conspiracies. Specifically, the one I want to talk about is the theory that Jesus had offspring and may have had some lineage that survived to this day. Maybe there's a descendant of Jesus walking around right now, walking around on the water even. Who knows?
Yep. That's how you can spot a descendant of Jesus. Yeah.
Yep.
Just walking on water.
So it looks like is Roadkill calling in or
Road Call?
It's a little early for calling. Okay, we'll wait a little bit though. I think.
Oh, I see. Roastmaster Glenn asked a question there.
Yeah, one sec here. We got so the hosts are half cut when they talk about the conspiracies. The conspiracies themselves may or may not be half baked, but generally we just have a good giggle at how silly they are. What is it you want to call in about, Roadkill? Can you just type it into the chat, because we're a little early to take calls, at least as far as our general format goes.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's
we'll definitely we'll let you know when we're ready to to take a call. It shouldn't be too long.
Yep. But yeah, that's the big crossover. Sort of the our epic cross-platform venture.
It's going to be a busy weekend.
It's going to be a busy weekend. Yeah. So if you get tired of hanging out with your family, then go to your podcast app and listen, and block out your annoying grandpa for a while if that's what you need to do. Carlo, any other comments before we move on?
No, just I guess for anyone who is interested in the conspiracy side of things, I'm going to do a shameless plug on your show. Go subscribe to the Half Cut Conspiracies podcast, and we've already got I think 11 different conspiracies that are out, or 10 so far. So check it out, and tune into our live one. And I'm really looking forward to doing another live one with you guys on actually being on your show rather than just calling in to take over your show here.
Well, and hopefully this time we can actually get some religious insight from you, because we didn't get much of that the last time we had you on.
That last one was well, at least this one now we know the movie is actually going to be, or the theme is going to be religion, whereas the other one, it was just the title that I thought was more religious, and turns out it wasn't really.
Yep.
So so I'm looking forward to giving you all of my my religious insight.
Cool. All right.
The little bit I have.
We'll see you come Easter then.
All right. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your show. I might call in if I have more to say, but sure. I'm looking forward to this one.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Thanks, Carlo.
See you later, Owen.
And with that, it's probably time to talk about this book, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, one last time.
One last time. So the book is the Turner Diaries. It is. Hang on, I should have had this page up already. Let's get the name of the author, so we can at least credit it somewhat. It's by a man named. Well, it's not by William. Oh wait, it is. Okay. So it's published under the name Andrew MacDonald, but it is written by a guy named William Luther Pierce, who was clearly insane and an insane racist, which not my thing. Not my thing. What's your what would you give this out of 5 clan hoods? what would you give this book, Lauren?
Okay, that's an interesting that's an interesting system of measurement. Are we talking like the more clan hoods, the more racist this book is, or?
I guess that's a fair point. If we're judging it on clan hoods, it is sort of like 5 out of 5 clan hoods. So
5.5 clan hoods out of 5. I would say, like just in terms of quality, I would give it a -1. Okay. Do not read this book. Oh, I hated it. I hated every moment of it. It wasn't well written. It didn't tell a good story. It was just a platform for some real racist and bigoted bullshit. And that's my take on it. How about you? 3.5 clan hoods. Roastmaster Glenn says 3.5.
It should be clan with a K, by the way, there, Roastmaster Glenn. So I won't say that I didn't enjoy this book at all. There were those couple of, we joked around last time about the exclamation marks in the diary.
Right.
So there were a few moments that, like, when he used those. Oh, I hope I muted that before.
You all right?
Right. Oh, did that come through? Sorry about that. I tried to mute that.
It's got to be COVID.
I just forgot what I was saying. So I was temporarily or briefly entertained by those exclamation mark moments, and just imagining this sort of like 16-year-old girl on her bed with her kicking her feet in the air as she's writing this tirade against all races other than white people.
Okay, but enjoying making fun of a book as you're reading it isn't the same as enjoying the book.
No, that's true. That is true. So no, I think this was a travesty of a book. I think it is easily the worst thing I've ever read. On like literally multiple levels. Like it's badly written. It's not a particularly believable story, at least, especially when you get near the end. The racism is so overt that it's nauseating. There were points where I felt ill having just read what I had read. And
yeah, there's points when you're reading this book, you just have to put it down and go for a walk.
Yeah, no, I literally did.
Just reflect on life.
Yeah, and just maybe, I don't know, go find a mixed race couple and smile and wave at them and be glad that they're alive and exist. And, yeah. So it's and I'm not ashamed to say that I'm perfectly fine with this book essentially being banned. Mm-hmm. Generally I'm a big supporter of like free speech and blah 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 and opposed to censorship, but there's nothing of value.
There's no argument you can make for the existence of this book. I don't think.
I mean, obviously, I think the writer would have an argument for the existence of this book, and it's that he hates everyone who's not white and thinks they should be dead, and everyone needs to sort of have that lesson. Although I'm not sure, like one of the things we talked about, you had this idea that in his mind, everyone kind of already felt that mm-hmm. way underneath the surface, and that's why it was so easy for them to kind of, rise up, because people deep down kind of wanted that to happen.
Mm-hmm. And he definitely took any chance that he could to show in the narrative the story that there was support for what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, but I'm with you. I think that this book should absolutely be banned, and I'm glad that it is.
Yeah. And I mean, here in Canada, it's basically banned under the idea of it being hate speech, because at least in Canada, there are limits on what we can say and what we can publish, and it's a little bit different than in the U.S., where they have a bit more of a blanket freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. But again, I have no issues with labeling this book as hate speech, like, because that's mm-hmm. literally what it is. I think I could be wrong, but I think there have even been points where like the characters in the book referred to their feeling towards these other races as hate. So yeah, no concerns there. Not looking forward to, like, hoping there's no film adaptation. That would be a travesty.
That happening.
And yeah, I mean, there's not a lot really to talk about as far as this.
No, I think we said pretty much everything. Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot of nuance for us to sort of dig through, and it's just
there's nothing we can argue about, because I think we both have the exact same feelings on this book, which hasn't been the case for the entire rest of this podcast.
Yeah, and there's, like, again, like I said, there's no nuance. There's no way of saying, like, mm-hmm. I can kind of understand, people wanting to ban it for this reason, but also maybe it's got this positive thing going for it. But no, there's nothing like that. There's nothing positive about this book. Nothing good about this book. Nothing, like, it's just a piece of shit.
I mean, maybe the only good thing about this book is just opening a person's eyes to what sorts of thoughts are out there.
Yeah, there is that.
Like people actually think this way, people actually feel this way, and I think it is important to understand that is a reality for some people. It's not important to respect it, but it is important to understand that some people are this extreme when it comes to subjects of racial integration, and it's scary. That's scary, but
yeah, that's a fair point, because I think a lot of times when you look at let's say the alt-right, quote unquote. And again, I'm not saying that everyone who's on the alt-right would subscribe to the ideas in this book, but certainly some would. And you look at them and you think, or you get the idea that, okay, those guys are racist, but just thinking they're racist is kind of like one level of understanding. Until you kind of experience or get a sense of what's going on in a book like this, you don't necessarily get how extreme that level of racism can be. You know, it's one thing to be the guy who's like, oh, I cross the street when like there's a group of black people coming towards me, or, you know, I'm not going to hire, you know, a native person at my job. But then it's so many steps beyond that to get to this level of I want to wipe these races off the planet. I want them extinct. And I don't know how you get there, but like you said, I think it's good that we're aware that those thoughts are out there. I mean, it's not, I don't know, is it fair to say it's good that we know that those thoughts are out there? I feel like maybe it's not, but
it's just important.
It's important. It's important.
Yeah, but anyway, I got nothing else to say about this book, to be honest with you.
I kind of don't either. And since Roadkill was so
let's get Roadkill in if he still wants to call in.
If Roadkill is still around, why don't you give us a ring and we'll see what you got to say. Or anyone else, if anyone else wants to give us a quick call and ask a question, share their thoughts if you happen to have read the book, which, again, you probably
shouldn't have.
But shouldn't have.
We appreciate the sacrifice if you did.
Yep. But Roastmaster Glenn just said, it's been suggested by some black people that outwardly racist folk are easier to handle than the silent type of racist. And that does seem pretty likely. In fact, I feel like something like that, like something around that idea, something that came up in the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Yeah, he did mention that. It also it rings a bell to Daryl Davis. Have you heard about him?
I don't recognize the name off the top of my head.
The musician who befriended a bunch of Klansmen. The black musician who befriended a bunch of Klansmen and actually convinced them to leave the organization.
Yeah, okay, I have heard that story. I don't know very much about it, but yeah.
It's a very interesting story. I actually took some notes. I want to talk about that later on in the podcast. And I also I remember when I was in psychology at university here in Williams Lake, my professor told us about an experiment done with rats about altruism and I don't know if you can call them different races of rats, but different strains of rats, and how it turned out to be. Oh, okay. Nice. I might have to check that out. Roastmaster says Joe Rogan did a fantastic interview with Daryl Davis. But this experiment basically concluded that any form of what would the word be? Not racism, but yeah, I guess that's a good word. Racism towards rats of other strains was entirely environmental and had nothing to do with the actual genetics of the rats. So that was interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, discrimination. That's a good word. So yeah, I wouldn't mind talking about those 2 points at some point here. We got a little bit of time though.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
But no one calling at the moment, so I mean, you're welcome to continue on with your thoughts.
Yeah, let me pull up that experiment because that was very interesting. So I'll just read the abstract. I won't go through the whole thing. Feel free to look it up on your own time as well. But the abstract for this experiment says, in mammals, helping is preferentially provided to members of one's own group. Yet it remains unclear how social experience shapes pro-social motivation. We found that rats helped trapped strangers by releasing them from a restrainer, just as they did cage mates. However, rats did not help strangers of a different strain, unless previously housed with the trapped rat. Moreover, pair housing with one rat of a different strain prompted rats to help strangers of that strain. So, evidence that rats expand pro-social motivation from one individual to phonetically similar others. To test if genetic relatedness alone can motivate helping, rats were fostered from birth with another strain and were not exposed to their own strain. As adults, fostered rats helped strangers of the fostering strain, but not rats of their own strain. Thus, strain familiarity, even to one's own strain, is required for the expression of pro-social behavior. So basically, yeah, I found that very interesting.
So is it that they were more attached to whatever group they grew up with, kind of a thing? Is that what it was?
Yeah. So if they, they grew up with their parent or with their mother, who looked similar to them, like similar strain to them, and if they were placed in an environment where they could see that there was another rat in distress and they could push a button and release that rat, no benefit to them whatsoever, strictly altruistic. If they recognized the strain of rat, if they had that familiarity with that strain, they would more often than not express that altruism and release that rat.
Right.
Now they found that if they placed if the stranger rat was a different strain that rat had not been housed with, they would not express that altruism. They would not release that rat more often than not. But if they were housed with a rat of that strain, even as an adult, if they had that positive experience, that living experience with them, and they placed not a stranger, but their cage mate in distress, that rat would obviously help their cage mate. But they found also that rat would help any stranger rat that looked similar to their cage mate. So if they've had a positive experience, that living experience, they have that familiarity with that strain, they express that altruism across all members of that strain. And then I think the final nail in the coffin for this one is when they haven't been exposed to their own strain, they do not share that empathy with their own strain,
right?
Because they don't have that familiarity with their own strain, right?
But it's still ultimately like a tribal mindset. Like, I recognize the group that I am a part of, and I will help that group more so than this other tribe that isn't of my group.
Absolutely. But what I find very interesting about this experiment is that it proves that tribal familiarity is 100% environmental. There is no genetic component to it whatsoever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's I think that's the key point to take away from this experiment. Obviously, you can't do this experiment with human beings. There's so many ethical barriers that would prevent this from happening. Oh yeah, we're gonna take a child, remove him from his family, foster him with a family of a different race, not let them see a member of their own race until they're adults, and then see if they would help.
100 years ago, though, you could totally get away with experiments like that.
Yeah, maybe.
I remember reading about some guy who just constantly scared this baby for months or years in order to, I don't know, find out what happens to children when they're constantly scared.
Oh my god, I remember that.
But it's like, you can get away with some insane shit as long as it was 1901 and you didn't tell anybody until your experiment was over.
You're like, hey, this is what I found. They're like, hey, that was kind of mean.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And kind of aligns with my thoughts that, that it is a tribal thing, right? It is a matter of not just recognizing your tribe, but the fear of the unknown, right? It's like the other tribe could be a danger to my tribe, which I think historically, evolutionarily, that would have been a fine way to be. Because you have no idea if that other tribe is going to come and bash in all your skulls and steal your women and your food and that sort of thing. But that's not really the case anymore. And I think, what we need to start doing is moving towards the idea of mankind or humanity as that one single tribe, right? The residents, the human residents of this planet need to be one tribe where we're all working together for the benefit of the one tribe. But I guess people would accuse me of being a globalist for saying that. You got another point you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, Daryl Davis. It's a very interesting story. I'll just kind of touch on it here. Again, it's one of those things that I think would be beneficial to look into it yourself as well. Let me just check here. I'm trying to find. I didn't capture a screenshot of the start of this here. So this is a I don't know if are we allowed to just like read off of a newsprint?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is from the Atlantic. So Daryl Davis here. He first met a member of the Ku Klux Klan when he was the only black man in a country band. But the guy came up to him afterwards and said, "Hey, like I've never seen a black man play piano like that before." And he offered to buy him a drink after the show. He sat and had a drink with him. The guy told him he was a KKK member. I guess Daryl assumed it was a joke at first, but then the guy pulled out his Klan card and realized that it was real. And instead of getting angry, instead of being scared, they continued to just like talk. At the end, they exchanged numbers, and they began this open conversation between them. It eventually resulted in this Klan member leaving the Klan, and Daryl decided to go a step further. He asked this ex-Klan member for the contact information for like one of the Grand Wizards. So he got the information, started opening up a conversation with one of the Grand Wizards, and became friends with him as well. And this guy actually ended up leaving the Klan as well. It's a really, really interesting read. I don't want to read the whole thing here.
Yeah, for sure.
But it definitely, I mean, when we talk about, you were saying, it's almost easier to deal with the extreme side of racism. Like these people in the Klan, I think, very much would sympathize with this book that we've read. And the fact that just some positive interactions with a man intellectually, finding common ground, it seems to be enough, at least for these people, anecdotally, to question their beliefs, to question that hate.
I think that makes sense too. That it's easier to hate a broad general concept like black people that you can just place this kind of label on. It's easier to hate that than it is to hate a specific individual that you get to know, and that, like you said, you have things in common with, that maybe has a sense of humor that makes you laugh, who can begin to show you the essential humanity of himself and therefore other members of that race.
Exactly. Like if you haven't had any positive experiences with a member of a race, it's easy to dehumanize them if you've never seen them as a human being.
Yeah.
It's,
and if that's what you've heard from your parents, or from the children at
from
school
your friends,
you go to, if that's what's being reinforced, that these are kind of inhuman or whatever, savages, whatever the stereotype might be.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter what the words used are. It's just it's that it feels that hatred. It feels, like you say, that fear, that unknown. And there was something really interesting in Daryl's story that really resonated with me. I come from quite a mixed background. I have Mexican and Native heritage,
Jesus
as well
Garcia.
as British, Scottish. What's that?
Jesus
Garcia, exactly. And I grew up with a family that was all different ranges of the spectrum of color. I even have a blood cousin who is half Somalian. I've never really, I've definitely never been told that any race is less than or bad or anything like that. Now, when I was 12 years old, I got called white trash at school, and I didn't understand what that meant. I was trying to
Right.
have this conversation with this kid. I you know, thought he was good at sports, and I wanted to talk to him about sports, and he said, "Don't talk to me, white trash." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't know what to do with that." So I went home and I talked to my mom, and I said, "Mom, what's white trash?" And she said, "Well, do you know how your grandma looks a little bit different than you? Like her skin's a little darker." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And she's like, "Well, some people find that important, and they'll make a point to point that out." And I was like, "Well, that sounds stupid." And I kind of left it at that. Um, and now Daryl Davis in this, I'm sure you can find it in probably many articles. This anecdote here, but he says that he was the only Black Boy Scout leader. He was chosen to lead a parade with the American flag in a very white neighborhood. People ended up throwing bottles and things at him, and he thought to himself, "Man, people really don't like Boy Scouts." And when he told his mom about it, then that's the first time that he was really exposed to the idea of racism.
Right.
So it's interesting, like you say, if you're taught it at a young age, if your parents beat it into you, on top of this, the separation, the segregation, you don't. Not only do you not grow that familiarity, you also grow hatred and fear.
Hmm.
And I think that it's there's nothing more powerful to a child's development in terms of environment than their their parents or their caregivers.
Yeah.
Um, they play such a huge role in who we are as people. And yeah, anyway, that was kind of just what I wanted to touch on with that. I thought it was a very interesting read. Please, Todd, look it up.
I will, for sure.
Very, very cool.
I think it goes a little bit to what Roastmaster Glenn said in the chat a little bit, a little while ago, that
Mhm.
human children don't care about the pigment of one's skin. They're just people to play with, and I think that's very, very, very true. And I think as long as at this point, um, we are generally kind of one tribe right now here, at least in Canada or in the United States. Um, and if there was no outside source of making people think that a certain race or a certain color is bad or wrong or needs to be eliminated, I don't think it would come up naturally, right?
No, no, no,
Um,
absolutely.
like one of my favorite things when Morrigan, my daughter, was younger, is going to McDonald's back when we could still go to restaurants, and she'd go into the play place there and make friends with like every single child there. Like not long-term friends, they're never going to see each other again, but for the
Mhm.
next 20 minutes or so, you guys are all some of my best friends in the world, and we're just going to play together and bing bang boom, never see each other again, and then come back to the McDonald's the next time and start the whole thing over again with a whole new batch
Mhm.
of children. But that's kind of what we all need to be. We all need to
Oh,
be
100%. Absolutely.
children at heart with
But the
no
question
hate.
is, how do you take somebody who has already crossed that threshold? How do you bring them back,
Yeah, and
right?
I think
And do you bring them back by yelling at them?
no,
Do you
no,
bring them back by hating them as much as they hate you? Um,
no.
I think the
Probably
answer
not.
is probably not. But that's a very difficult thing to do. It takes
You
a
could try
really
pie. You could try pie. Pie does a lot of good. You could bring some pie and be like, "Hey, this pie was
it's
baked
delicious.
by, but it was baked by a black man, but it's delicious. Try the black pie."
I
Talking
don't think
about
any. No, don't do that. Please don't do that. Nobody do that. Not like that. Like
not like that. No.
no. But it's interesting when you take Daryl's story. He came at it with a high amount of emotional security, a high amount of intelligence. Um, he came at it uh, really systematically, um, and I think that's really a story that a lot of people should read. He also has. I just found out while researching him that he's written a few books. So looking forward to reading those. Um, but yeah, something like nice like that, a nice story like that, I think is definitely needed after reading this fucking book. Like
Yeah.
you need that palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, and you know what we didn't touch on is we even have something lined up for after Easter, which is the what you wanted to cover. Do you
right.
recall?
Yes, I do.
Because
I want to cover Gravity Falls because apparently it's been banned overseas, and I'm going to take that as it's been banned, and we're going to do it because Gravity Falls is effing hilarious. Um, and yeah, love that show. Would love
and
to talk
because
about it.
after I forced Orin to read the Turner Diaries, I promised him that he would be allowed to pick something to follow up with because he went through that for me. So we've got some pretty easy sailing for the next little bit between the Dr. Seuss books and Gravity Falls, and I guess things will get a little bit serious around Easter, but I think we've got some smooth sailing. So we'll have to, after Gravity Falls, we'll have to look at something, another book, some big controversial book. Which, by
Yeah.
the way, I should mention, if anyone has any recommendations, any books that have been banned that they would like us to cover, we're certainly open to taking suggestions. We won't necessarily take it just because it was suggested, but we don't have anything pinned down at the moment. So if anyone has suggestions, you're welcome to drop them in the chat. Or
Of
send us an
Mice and Men.
email
I don't know
to
if Mice and Men. We'll look into that.
bannedthingshappen@gmail.com. I don't know if Mice and Men was banned. That's a good question. We could just Google that right now, couldn't we? Has been banned. In fact, according to study.com, it is regularly on the banned books lists
Okay.
because of vulgarity, racism, and its treatment of women. I think that's a pretty short read, too.
Oh, we'll definitely have to add that to the list of
Yeah.
considerations.
Roastmaster said, I think it was, and then it wasn't. And that does tend to be the case with a lot of these banned books, that they'll be banned someplace for a while, and then someone else will come in and then fight to get it unbanned, and then somewhere else it'll end up banned, and then it'll end up not banned there at some point. And these things are always coming in and out of being banned.
Yeah.
And again, it's
It
mostly
really
at the
never
school
seems like
levels.
it really never seems like we haven't come across anything that's had a really wide umbrella ban until this book.
Until this book, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll look into that and perhaps add that to our list of things to cover. I think we're getting kind of close to wrapping up. Before we do, one last call for callers, if anybody wants to give us a ring and share their thoughts and jive with the hosts a little bit. Or recommend.
You're the only one that gets the host badge, man. I feel jelly.
I know. We got Carlo calling in. Let's take a call from Carlo again. Carlo,
I don't think Roastmaster's been listening. He says he wants to read the Turner Diaries. I repeat, do not read this book.
But he says he'll read it when he needs a reason to be pissed off.
Pissed off, okay.
Hey guys.
Hey Carlo.
I'm back.
Hey Carlo.
You're back.
Yeah, you guys are doing awesome.
You've attacked our podcast again. You've snuck in, you wily devil.
Yeah, yes, I'm infiltrating. So just a question about kind of the Turner Diaries and I guess modern times. How, like, I was looking at there's an article online about how it's how the Turner Diaries incites white supremacists, and it talks about like the Capitol riots and stuff that happened. Yeah. I guess my question to you guys, because you actually read the book and might have a little bit more insight on, how do you feel that, from the diary writings of Turner, how has things like kind of maybe gotten better since the book was written, in terms of like, people realizing that racism is bad, to, after Trump kind of came in, or the whole white supremacy started building up during Trump's reign over the states there. Have you seen anything like from the book that these white supremacist groups might be kind of globbing onto again, now that, racism seems to be the in thing for them and they had a lot of support? It's kind of like a really broad question all over the place, but
no, okay. I think I don't have too much of an opinion on this because, I mean, pretty in my own bubble up here in in small town Canada. But I think that the idea of a race war has kind of propped back up on their radar. And that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the most terrifying thing about not maybe not just this book, but like the people who have this sentimentality, or I don't know if that's the right word, but whatever, I'm using it.
Sentiment, I think, is what you want.
Sentiment, yeah, sentimentalityism. Yeah, you know, you know what I mean.
Sentimentalityism. Okay.
I think that would be the most terrifying thing to come out of this book.
I would point to the Capitol riot / insurrection as being something that was potentially. I mean, people were talking at the time about how it was kind of connected to the Turner Diaries, and then further to that, you know, the idea is there was some thought and some speculation that there might actually be a more violent assault on the Capitol in like March 4th or 5th when
Right.
you know the proper Trump inauguration was supposed to happen.
Yeah, because in this book they actually do go and kill the congressman.
Well, they don't.
Right.
Well, I mean, I guess at some point they probably kill all of them, but the assault on the Capitol wasn't fantastically successful, but they did kill a few
Right.
people.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, seeing something like it wouldn't surprise me to see an attack similar to what was done in the book. I mean, I'm not saying that it's likely to happen. And I'm glad to see that nothing happened, you know, at the beginning of March when people were predicting it. So hopefully, you know, it's maybe it's more of a murmur than an actual kind of uprising. And you know, after the insurrection and all the arrests following that, people are maybe less likely to want to push forward. But you know, if there's one thing from the book that I see maybe kind of playing out in reality following, you know, the whole Donald Trump being a massive racist and firing up his racist base, it would be something like that. It would be something like an attack on the Capitol from people who think that either that the election was stolen or that, you know, there is a deep state that's controlling things and they want to try to take the country back. Because again, that's very much what the Turner Diaries is about these people trying to take the country back, and not even back from the deep state. They literally want to take it back from the American government. Like they basically say in there that the Constitution is garbage and that the American experiment didn't work, and now we need to just wipe it all out and use super racism as our guiding force. So yeah, that would be my answer.
On that note about like taking the government back, I guess, are you guys familiar with all the different bills that the Republicans are trying to pass right now for what is it, like voting eligibility or voting rights? How they're basically trying to limit.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with it, but I know it's going on. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you like? I guess I follow a lot of American politics, and this book obviously is all about America. Do you feel like the things that are happening over there, the way things are kind of shaping up or seem to be going? Do you feel like it's more like a subtle way that people are taking the message of this book and trying to? I guess, could you see something like what they're doing in the book happening just in a more subtle way by the powers that are kind of manipulating all this, racial stuff in the States?
You know, I kind of think that while this book does add fuel to the fire, this book is a symptom. It's not the cause of those sorts of ideas. Those ideas existed before this book. They existed after its banning, and they exist today. So I don't think the book necessarily will be the driving force behind anybody's actions or beliefs, but I think it definitely has the ability to embolden those beliefs. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And I guess my comment would be that the book is more like...
If you'd like to call in, Roastmaster, we'll be pretty quick here. We can get you on if you want.
The sort of the protagonists, or the ones who are trying to change America and the world in the book, are on the extreme, like the extreme. These are not people who are doing things via the government. These guys,
they
Turner
actually went out.
Points out how, the Republicans, the regular conservatives, are just as bad. Like, they're working against them as much as they are against, the liberals and everything else. So I can certainly see, the Republican Party in the U.S. continuing to sort of legislate in ways that make life more difficult for people who aren't white. I don't see that as being if you are strongly in favor of overthrowing the government via something like the Turner Diaries, I don't see people supporting that.
Interesting. Awesome. Well, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Absolutely.
All right. Anyone, any last takers before we wrap it up and move on?
We're looking at you, Roastmaster.
It was an accident, I think. It was a pocket call.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's it. We never have to talk about this book again. We never have to think about this book again. We can scrub the existence of this book from our brains. And I feel good about that.
I feel good about that too.
This last week, when I haven't had to read the book, has been just such a dream. If you want to check my roast tonight, 6 p.m. here on Podbean.
Okay. Do you want to?
I will maybe check that out.
Yeah, let's check that out.
Yeah. So the Glen B sideshow. Okay, I'm going to copy that into Notepad so I don't forget the name of it. Thanks for the invite. We'll try to drop by. And thanks for dropping by on our show.
Yeah, it's great to have people. It's great to have that back and forth. So it doesn't feel like we're just sitting here talking out of our asses completely.
Yeah, and it's nice to know that people are listening, and exactly, we're not just in this empty room having this big debate that nobody gives a crap about. Let's talk about our socials and stuff. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/bandthingshappen. That's probably one of the better places to sort of keep up on when new releases are happening. There's also a link to our Discord there, because you got to pay money if you want to have a proper Discord link, and we don't feel like doing that, so we've got a garbage link with a bunch.
We can't afford it because we don't have enough Patreon. Patrons.
Speaking of which, we are on Patreon as well. It's patreon.com/blah blah blah media. If you want to support us on a monthly basis, you can do that there. If you want to just throw some money our way for a one-time thing, like buying us a coffee, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/blah blah blah. We also have a website at blahblahblahmedia.com where hopefully I'll get off my ass and get all of our links there properly. Yes, Carlo, I know that's what I need to do. I feel your eyes on me from all the way over here. And I think we've got a merch store too, but we don't have any Band Things merchandise up there yet. It's just half-cut conspiracy merchandise. But that is hang on, I got to double check the URL here. It's at
much professional.
Yep, shop.spreadshirt.ca/blah-blah-blah-media. And for all those, it's BLAH for the blah, blah, blah. Easy to remember. It's just the triple B. Any final comments, Oren?
You owe me. You owe me big. This book sucked. It was painful.
It was.
You owe me a beer.
I owe you a beer. Well, my mom bought us a couple of beers already.
Sweet.
So
okay.
Next time you're in town, I'll I'll treat you to a couple.
Sounds great.
Okay. As always, everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. I've been Todd Sullivan.
And I've been Oren Barter.
This has been When Bad Things Happen to Good People. Go read a fucking book.
Do 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 do.